Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a really cool puzzle that was given to me through Discord. So take a second and get used to the position here. It is white to move and win. So these pawns are going up the board. Oops, these pawns. So black would of course go this way. And your goal is to see if you can find the win. So take maybe 30 seconds and see if you can figure it out. While you're thinking about the position here, let me just quickly encourage you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity. So every like, every subscriber, it helps me out so much. Okay, let's get to it here. So you might just kind of be tempted to push this pawn immediately as the first move. This is not a very good first move because the queen can take and watching over the square. And eventually if the knight were to check or something, the king can also support that. So d7 is not the best move here. Okay, so what else would you think? Maybe bishop d7? That's an idea. So king e5 is looking like a pretty good move. And even after d takes c7, this looks like a nice variation. But the computer is showing this as a draw. I think it's a little complicated, but it looks like it's going to just be a perpetual check somewhere in the mix. So queen takes g5, queen c7 check, just giving you a sample line. Feel free to mess with this position. It'll be in the description of the video. But just to give a couple more moves, just so you can kind of see where it's going. f4, sneaky move. So queen takes, king c5, and it looks like it's going to be just a bishop draw. Okay, so it's not bishop d7. Okay, so what about knight d4? Looks like a nice move, right? It forces the king up. And you can make the argument this is a winning move because it's slightly plus, it's like plus 0.8 for white. But we're not computers, and there's a move that's better. So we can look at this variation. d7 is the best move, but after queen takes g5, eyeing this, it's going to take a lot of precision here. So queen e3, and then after the queen, let's see, the best move in the position is actually knight c6 check. Kind of a crazy variation. There are many, many variations in this puzzle, so bear with me. This is probably another sequence that will do well, but it is not the sequence in the puzzle. So it's not the best move. Okay, the computer is saying this is plus 0.5, 0.8, depending on how long you let it sit. Okay, so what is this better move? What is this knockout blow? So the first move is d takes c7. Okay, now what's the point of this move? What's the threat? Well, I want to promote this pawn and get a queen. So how can you stop me? Well, you can't. That's kind of the hard part of this puzzle. You can maybe think, hey, what if I, take with the queen, and if they promote, I can try to trade queens. Yeah, not working out because they don't actually have to promote on this. They can just get a skewer and win the queen, and that's enough. So what are you really thinking here? What's the move that's on your mind? Maybe you're thinking pawn takes because now you're avoiding the skewer. If you play pawn takes, that's going to lose even faster because queen c8 and the king's going to get pretty much run all over the place. Even a move like queen d8 here is great, threatening this discovered check. Okay, so just to give you an idea. So the best move in this position, surprisingly, is king takes f5. You might say, that's weird. Aren't I walking into a skewer? And the answer, surprisingly, is yes, but you'll see why in a moment. So bishop d7 check. Great, awesome, let's do it. Well, if the king moves, clearly it's just going to take the queen. So the bishop on a2, it's been hiding this whole time, gets to finally interpose. Okay, now what? So see if you can find the main idea here. Of course, you take this, and then after king takes, you promote and win the queen. But, this is the important variation, the king does not have to take you. So if they play king e5, notice right here that if you take the queen, this is stalemate. Look at this. Isn't that crazy? So you can't take the queen. So what do you do in this position as white? You don't want to just let the queen go away, right? So the best move here is to play pawn to c8 queen. And now it's a big calculating mess. After queen takes, and king takes, you have to evaluate this endgame. Is white winning? Well, I already told you in the beginning it's white to win, so you're assuming yes. But in this kind of game, see if you can calculate out. How far out can you see, and whether or not you can see the win. Okay, so the first idea is white has to run to the A pawn. And you can get there either by b6 or b5. They're both equivalently good because they both result in a capture on the next move. So we'll play king b5. I don't think it matters. Now black wants to run, and very importantly, they don't want to take this pawn. They instead want to run to g4 to go to f3 to g2 to take this pawn on h2. So just as an important note, if the king takes here, this is a huge blunder because king b4 and this pawn is fast. How fast is it? Well, you want to go here? Let's just show really quickly. I'll try to make it fast. So something like this. Look at this diagonal here. So g5, take. What do you want to do? Go here? It's all too slow. I can take here. I can take here. I can always give up the pawn and push this one through. I'm fine. This is a mate in 11. So good luck with that. Like I said, this king takes c3 is the best move because you're pretty much stalemating them back and forth. Pretty cool. I like that idea. So instead of taking this pawn on g5, it's a very instructive point that the best defense is actually to play king g4. Now why? Let's look at it. King g4. Okay, our king has to get out of the way. You want to go to b4 because you want to get to this pawn soon. So b5 is actually an inferior move here. Okay, king b4. King f3. I want to get to this pawn if I'm black. a5. King g2. a6. King takes pawn. a7. King better get out of the way. Now where does the king go? Whether it goes to g1 or g2. It actually does make a difference. And I think you would know which one is better. Just as a quick quiz to you, pick one. Which one would you pick? As a general principle, you probably want to get out of the line of check. And since this queen is about to move to e4, you're going to get checked, which means king g1 is the superior move. Okay, so check, queen, h2. How is this going to end? Well, it's not even over yet. Queen takes e4. And after they queen, you exchange. And let me ask you, in this position, what move would you make? Would you move the e pawn? Would you move the a pawn? Would you just take this pawn straight away? What's your thought? So I actually was looking at the a pawn because I thought, hey, I'm on this diagonal, I might as well. So that was a terribly drawn diagonal. If you play that, you actually lose. Isn't this crazy? h3, you just kind of lose the race. I'll just say it that way. h2, look. Right here, bang. You're a little too slow. Which means when you're, which means when you're in this position, let me go all the way back, sorry about that. And here. When you're in this position, you don't want to move the h pawn because it's slower than this one. Instead, you move the e pawn because even though it's slower, it's not going to get captured on the next move. So like something like this. They can move out of the way now, it's fine. Push, 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 all these pushes. They promote to a queen. Now they don't take my pawn in the next move because I can also promote to a queen, right? Do you see that difference there? Okay, so now in this position, we are 19 moves away from the original position, and I doubt that you calculated that far in my 15-second prompt to you. So what is the best move here? Well, we just promoted as white, and the computer is still showing this as plus 1.5-ish. And after queen h4 check, the best move, according to the engine, is king b3, but king c3 also works. And king c3 is pretty much the end of the puzzle because the idea is that you can win this because you have two pawns on the A and C files, and you're going to push these up the board. So after queen takes g5, this is, I'll just show you a simple variation. Let's say you want to go to one of these squares. Let me ask you a question. If you play, we'll go with this one since it's farther away from the king. If you play this move, does it win or does it lose? Or does it draw? See if you can calculate that. So just really quickly, I'll show you. Queen takes d2. King takes d2. Push the pawn like a crazy person. And what happens? Push, push, push. Do you see it yet? They promote first, you promote, and surprisingly, this is just a draw because you're not going to escape these checks. You go here, it's going to just be the same. Check. This is a draw. Which means all the way back, all these little variations here. Which means after you check them on E1 and they move to, we'll just say H2, this is the better defense. Because G2, that whole variation does not work, I don't think. Because now I can play Queen D2 check and the pawn is actually being obstructed by the king. Don't you love these little instructive moments? There are so many of them. Chess is a beautiful game. So they play King H2, and now you have to figure out how to win this. And I think I'll stop in just a moment because this is kind of the end of the puzzle. You're plus 1.3 according to the engine, but to me that doesn't mean that much. I don't know if it means a lot to you because I would have a hard time winning this in person because this is like, you gotta shepherd the pawn up, which means you gotta be very careful, avoid perpetual checks. But pretty much you play King F2, or sorry, Queen F2, that's a queen. And you just try to run the king around. I'm just going to show you a sample variation with the computer. So I'm just going to follow the best moves for a moment, give you the idea. Queen F1, King H2, Queen E2 check. You can play King H3, that's the best move. So I'm just going with the engine just to show you the idea. Let's not get a repetition here. A4. Okay, so no check. You could check here. Queen A5 is the check that the computer wants. King B3, just to show you kind of how crazy this can get. C4, look at this. So the idea is that you're going to start pushing these pawns up the board, and the queen is eventually going to run out of space. Queen E5 is the best move. So, again, I have a hard time playing this as a human being, but this is the best that you can do in that initial position, and I think that's the cool part about this whole puzzle, is after something like Queen D2 and Queen G3, you can play this all day. At least I could. But this will be a draw if you're not careful. But objectively, it is supposed to be a win. So C5, Queen G1, very scary. C6, Queen C2, look at this. Queen C5, how do you defend this pawn? King B3, what is that about? So if you take this pawn, what happens? Look at this. Check. The king has to go somewhere. And then you play king. Look at this. Then it's just a trade. And now the idea is that you can shepherd this pawn up the board. Wow. That's so hard for me to understand as like a measly human. But apparently this is the best thing. So sorry to go on and on here. But the hope is that you understand that position all the way back. 25 moves ago. If you go all the way back to this initial position. It's white to win, even though for two humans it would be very hard. It is a technical win, and I would trust that two grandmasters would be able to figure it out. But that's pretty much it. After this really cool variation of promoting and then making it all work, if I can just grab the variation one more time, that's a super cool move. That's like the star move for black. And hopefully you were able to figure out this king and pawn ending, which is just so mysterious to me because of how it looks. But apparently, it's a winning endgame for white. But that's it for right now. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. As I mentioned in the beginning, it helps out so much. Thank you for watching. Bye.